Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hey there, healthcare humans. Before we dive into this week's episode, I wanted to let you know about a new way that you can get coaching support from me that's more flexible to a busy schedule and is also a lower financial investment for you. I'm calling it Coaching on the Go. So basically, for a monthly fee, you get access to text as well as voice memo support from me through a voice app called Voxer. I've already tried this out with a number of current clients and I'm really enjoying it. And so now I want to expand the offer to others that might be interested. So I think this might be a good option for you if you listen to this podcast and you wish that you could talk back to me. If you hear things that I say and you go, oh my gosh, I want to apply that to my life, but I'm actually not sure how. Or maybe you hear something and you apply it to your life, but you're not sure what to do next. If you've wished that you could kind of like phone a friend, if you will, you wish you could have phoned me in the middle of a really sticky patient dilemma, a really awkward colleague dynamic, like even a personal life dynamic, if that's what you'd like to use the support for. I'm here for all of it. And the way I'm able to be here for all of it is because it's asynchronous. So basically through this app, you either write to me or send me a voice memo, like telling me what's going on. And then I usually say within 48 business hours, so sometime that day or the next day, unless it's over the weekend, I'll listen and then I will typically not write back. I will usually speak back to you. So you get personalized advice, support, coaching from me. The other reason I'm calling it Coaching on the Go is that the vast majority of the time I am listening and responding while driving or going for a walk or run or doing chores around the house. So get ready for some like delightful background noise and getting sort of off the cuff, Joan. But those that are in the program now are enjoying it. And it is like a fraction of the cost of signing up for the full one-on-one coaching program that I know many people don't wish to have the time or the financial investment currently. And so this way, there's still a way that you can get connection and support from me in a way that works for you. So if you are interested in that option, you can check out the show notes for this podcast or go to joanchanmd.com/coaching. And I'm going to have that as a new option. Look for Coaching on the Go. And it's all there. The more information, you can always reach out to me over email or Instagram if you have further questions before you want to sign up. If not, you can just go ahead and sign up and let's start talking. So I hope to connect with you soon there. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. So today I wanted to talk about a topic that's inspired by a children's book, actually. This book, I think I actually got it secondhand from one of my relatives, probably my sister and brother-in-law. So I think I'm just going to start first by like telling you about this book and then how I then was thinking about how it relates to our work in healthcare. So this book, it's called Zen Shorts. Shorts as in short stories, but also shorts you could wear, by John M. Muth, M-U-T-H. And it's a little illustrated book with a cute panda on the front. And the entire book is about this sweet little family of 3 kids, and they befriend this bear, this giant panda bear named, actually, maybe it's not giant. No, it's giant. Pandas aren't that big. It is a quite giant panda named Stillwater. That's the name of this panda. And the reason that the person wrote this book is because they wanted to introduce some concepts from Zen, and like the Zen spiritual tradition to children, which love that as a concept of a book, right? And there's 3 stories, but the one in the middle every time I read it, because, this is one of the ones that my kids like reading because the pandas are cute and they're like, oh, look at the pictures. But every time I read this one in particular, like something happens to my heart. And I was like, I got to read this story on the podcast. So I haven't actually done any research. I know that this story isn't original to this book. This is a classic Zen teaching. I'm not sure if the exact way it's worded has been changed for the book. I do imagine the illustrations, which if you're watching the YouTube version, you can see the illustrations are like a bunny. I'm imagining the original authors through Zen tradition weren't picturing bunnies when they, a bunny farmer, because the name of the story is The Farmer's Luck. But in this version of the story, it is sweet little bunnies that are farming. And I think that's cool. So I'm going to read it to you. And then I'm going to talk about what this episode's actually about. So, like I said, the name of the story is The Farmer's Luck. There was once an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day, his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck, they said sympathetically. Maybe, the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. Such good luck, the neighbors exclaimed. Maybe, replied the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown off, and broke his leg. Again, the neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Such bad luck, they said. Maybe, answered the farmer. The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight in a war. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. Such good luck, cried the neighbors. Maybe, said the farmer. And then the visual is important for that last maybe, which is now you see this young man with a broken leg just watching TV, and then the farmer dad is like, oh boy. So like maybe it's like, now my son's gonna get addicted to TV. I don't know. I'm probably reading into that. But that's the story. That's the story. And so that's why I wanted to do an episode on the power of maybe. I just think it's kind of evocative the way that word maybe. It feels like such a like meh word. Maybe it's you're wishy-washy. You're in the middle. In a way, that's true. But I think about how the ways in which I have grown to respect the notion of maybe and how that has opened things up in my life. Because I think about our work with patients. Often, patients don't want a maybe from us. They want a yes or no. They want a good or bad. They want a black or white. And that's very understandable. Also, we, as healthcare humans, we want the situation to be good or bad, right or wrong, black or white. We don't always feel that comfortable with ambiguity, complexity, nuance. And with maybe, part of what the maybe is about is not judging a situation to necessarily be good or bad. And our brains, as a default, have been socialized to do a lot of judging good or bad. So it's interesting to think of it as a maybe in that sense. Also, just about predicting the future, right? We really work in an area that there's certain parts of medicine that have higher predictive accuracy, but I cannot think of a realm of medicine that has 100% predictive accuracy, other than, if you have pronounced someone dead and it's been more than a few minutes, it is extremely unlikely they'll come back alive, I suppose. But like beyond that, like there aren't a ton of other examples. And so like actually our work is a bunch of maybes in terms of what will happen next. And I know I see colleagues and I find myself at times being like, oh, I think that this one's definitely going to be cancer, or this one's definitely going to be fine. And we want to like say that to ourselves, to our colleagues, to our patients, want to give them guarantees or reassurances. We want the right or wrong. We want the definite certainty and to give it to them. And that's what we think they want. And there's something that doesn't work very well about that, because we can be as certain as we want to be. We can be as confident as we want to be. We can predict with as much, gusto as we want. And then nature smiles and laughs at us. Life smiles and laughs at us, because actually there's just so many twists and turns, and the body is constantly surprising us, actually. So what happens if we embrace the power of maybe? So like in this sort of Zen tradition way, where that story in particular is talking about, oh, this is good luck, this is bad luck, this is good luck, this is bad luck, right? The way that I think that can help me is when my brain is starting to say, okay, this is a good or bad patient. I am a good or bad clinician. This is a good or bad day. So thinking of it just from like a judgmental landscape, like if this means I'm a terrible person, this means I definitely need to beat myself up because I stuttered in an encounter with a patient. You could do a lot of work around that, right? You could do some coaching, you could do self-reflection, you could do some self-compassion, you can do a lot of like different tools and tricks and approaches to how you're feeling about a given situation. But a beautiful beginning is simply just telling yourself, maybe. Like, and it usually makes me kind of giggle like that too. It opens space for curiosity. It opens space for not a premature judgment of this is what it is, the end. It opens an avenue to question, okay, I'm thinking it's all bad here, and maybe it is. It's not trying to gaslight the original snap judgment of the situation. It's saying, yeah, maybe it is really shitty, just a shitty day. Maybe that's what's going on. And it's just a beautiful space to add that yes and back into the conversation. What else could be true? You know, I think a lot of times we feel like I'm trapped, I'm stuck. Maybe you're trapped or stuck. And what else can you see? What other options are available? Even if you don't choose them, somehow opening up space to know you have other choices or there are other options and there's reasons why you're not choosing them. It helps you with the stuckness. It helps you with that stuck quality, you know? And you would think that it would make it more anxiety provoking. And for this, I'll speak to myself personally. I know in rooms with patients, there have been so many times where it feels like they are absolutely demanding that I be certain and predict the future for them as some kind of fortune teller. And definitely like early on in my career, sometimes I'd give into it, if I'm perfectly honest. Sometimes I'd be like, I'm confident with this one. I don't know if I've ever promised a patient an outcome because that just would feel so just like a lie. That would be like, it would be deceitful, to be honest. How can I promise them anything, right? So like, I don't think I've ever done that, but I wouldn't judge myself in the past or you if you have done that, because the people pleasing, the wanting to ease their anxiety, that impulse is so strong. And as I've gotten further into my career and I've been more comfortable sitting with the maybe in my own body of like, maybe this is good, maybe this is bad, maybe this is cancer, maybe this is benign, we actually don't know yet, we're in the middle, we're still exploring. The more I even just sit with it, whether I say something out loud to them or not, I really believe it transmits a quality of like calmness about the uncertainty that patients appear to pick up on. And more, like especially if someone's like, but I want to know what it is, I have become much more comfortable, possibly to some of my patients' chagrin, who knows? But like, I've been speaking the truth, because the thing is, maybe is the truth most of the time. Like, okay, so this is a good thing, right? Oh, I'm healthy, right? Maybe, like, and I can say that in a way where it doesn't sound flippant. I don't think I often literally use the maybe out loud to my patient, but I'm communicating the concept of maybe as in there are multiple possibilities before us. And I might say something like that instead. So so say we've done a set of blood work and they're like, okay, so I'm healthy, I don't have to worry, right? The first thing I would say in that situation is, I believe you never have to worry. That worrying is just a slightly self-harmful, understandable habit that our brain develops. So I will never invite you to worry, patient. And what I can say is the blood tests we've done do not indicate that anything's off. I also hear from you that you're physically feeling well in these ways. All of those are really good signs. And, if things start to feel different, we can always check back. But say they were like, but you're just, I need you to say with certainty, or like they were really like, I need a guarantee. I'm like, I have learned in medicine to never say anything 100%, because the body always surprises us. Like those are like I say that to them. And it's interesting, like, so some people maybe get a bit, I don't know, actually usually then they sort of go, okay, and maybe part of them is a bit disappointed and they wish I had a guaranteed answer. But honestly, My belief is that a deeper part of them knows that I'm being honest with them and telling them the truth, because their body knows there are no guarantees. They, at a fundamental level, are living in the same human existence as I am, which is that we don't know the future. And most of life is unknowable. Like, I know that a lot of us cognitively and emotionally are running towards a semblance of certainty and control. But on a deeper level, we all are aware that most of things are not in our control and life is uncertainty, period. Like when people say, it's like, oh no, I just need certainty. Like certainty is for the most part like a fantasy and a construct. And it's not that nothing can be predictable in our lives. And our brains like a bit of predictability of what could happen next. They do freak out when things are surprising. That makes sense, right? But like on a deep level, I think our deeper selves, our wisest selves know that everything that we don't know, and the future being something we very much don't know. So another way of saying what I'm saying is that on a deeper level, ourselves, our patients, our colleagues, even people who are really like, you need to say with 100% this way or that way, on the surface, that's the projection that they're doing towards us. They're saying maybe it's not good enough. But on a deep level, that human being underneath of whatever motivation is making them really think they need 100% certainty, they do have a deeper knowledge that the maybe is the truer sense of it, you know? So I have found that to be true. I've been surprised. There have been times where I've been like, okay, I'm just trying to be honest. I'm trying to be authentic. So I am going to say the maybe of it all and say, this is what we know, and this is what we don't know, and this is what we may never know. And I say that way more now than I used to. And I've been surprised how little I've honestly never had a patient get like angry or yell at me for that. If anything, I've had patients upset with me. Maybe if I did say, was you said this, but it was this. And so if any, like holding space for people so that they can become more comfortable with the truth of the maybe. First, we have to practice being comfortable with the truth of the maybe ourselves. And so, usually the thing that keeps us from being comfortable with the truth of the maybe with our patients is like, what if they're mad at me and then they complain to the college, or what if I get sued, or all those things. And so that's where, again, we get to practice the maybe. Maybe you'll be sued someday. Maybe you'll be involved in a lawsuit. Maybe, like, there is a statistical probability of it happening in your different professions, your different specialties. There's a higher and lower probability. Probability is maybe, which means maybe yes or maybe no. And there's something really interesting I find, and I'd invite you to just try on and see if it's true for you, where, when you're in that deep catastrophizing mode and you're like, everything's going wrong and I'm going to lose my job and I'm going to be homeless on the street. That's like such a common catastrophizing pattern. So if you had that too, like, perhaps especially for those of us raised and socialized female, becoming a bag lady, like, way more than one person I have spoken to, whether they're a coaching client or a friend, that is their very specific downward spiral that they always end up in. I know I am married to someone socialized, raised, and identifies as male, and his isn't bag lady, obviously, but his is like how we're going to end up homeless on the street. So it's like a very common catastrophizing fear that's interesting and worth unpacking on its own, honestly. But like, something about actually just like for the part of you that's so panicked, like holding that part of you's hand and being like, I hear you, you're so scared. But instead of saying, no, that won't happen, and here's all the reasons it won't happen, and I don't even think about it. Like, don't even worry. Like, why are you even worrying? Like, don't worry. Don't be silly. That's not going to happen. Here's all the rational reasons why that's not going to happen. That scared part of you knows the maybe more than the part of you that's trying to gaslight yourself out of the maybe. Like, so instead, holding that little part of yours hand, and sometimes I do like to like literally just hold my whole hand as if I'm two people and being like, hey, you know what? Maybe we will be so sued by so many people, we will end up bag ladies on the street, whatever that is. I'm just going to name bag ladies, probably an offensive term, isn't it? It's not a kind way to describe people who experience homelessness. So I just am retroactively apologizing and holding space for the fact that a bit of what is happening as we fear these things is like our deep class capitalism socialization that's behind some of this catastrophization. Honestly, like that's the worst thing that can happen. Would you not still be a worthwhile human being, even in that very challenging situation, honestly? But putting that piece aside, because what I'm really focusing though on is, I mean, this fear exists in us. Whatever, if it's this fear, if it's the fear of becoming sick yourself, if it's whatever if your fear of a loved one dying, these common fears, holding yourself through and saying, maybe that will happen. Maybe that will not happen. Maybe that will be good for us. Maybe that will be bad for us. Like just holding us through the maybe and not having to make a final judgment and do the rational algebra of why it will never happen or it's definitely going to happen, which we absolutely cannot know with any certainty. Instead, holding ourselves through the maybe, that usually helps calm down my catastrophizing. Maybe not completely. Sometimes I also, need a sleep and a snack, like but at least for that real, the loud part of my brain that's like, everything's going wrong, everything's going wrong, everything's going to be terrible for everyone, everyone hates me. You would think that being like, everyone hates me, and then me being like, maybe, would be not received well. But usually, like, again, I want to giggle a little bit of like, maybe everyone does hate me. And it's sort of, there's something, why does it make me giggle? It's almost like a relief to just acknowledge, I suppose it's one of the possibilities, and just leaving space for that to really just be one of the possibilities, first of all, means that you're not resisting it. You're like, yeah, okay, maybe. And it's one of multiple possibilities. We don't need to know with certainty that a bad thing won't happen or a good thing will happen. We really don't need to know with certainty. We just need to have it open, our lives open to the possibility that the good thing could happen or the bad thing could not happen. We just need it to be possible that things will go the way we want. We don't need to absolutely know with certainty. Truly, I believe that. That has been my experience. Tell me if that doesn't feel relatable to you, and I will hear you out. But like, I think if we just know that it's possible, something shifts. So if we just say maybe the bad thing will happen, maybe the good thing will happen, maybe the thing we want will happen, right? And then the second component of that is, especially if we are telling ourselves maybe with love and support. So it's like, you know what? I mean, a common fear I have is that my children will pass away. Even saying it out loud, I'm like, oh my God, superstition's taking hold. But I'm saying words out loud to a screen. So it's interesting that I think that. But I mean, it's a common fear. Having kids, I think it's part of the deal. So when I say maybe, and then the other thing I say is, and if that really horrible, not very likely, but possible thing were to happen, I will be there with you. So it's also with the maybe, making the maybe like a holding your hand and saying, I'm with you through the maybe, and doing that same thing with our colleague, with our partner, with our kid, with our patient. It's a connected maybe. And it really helps. Also, just the fact that this is this one word, just like maybe. We don't have to do a whole analysis. We can if we want. I love a whole analysis. That's why I like coaching so much. It's like, let's pull it all apart and see all the pieces. But there's something about starting with maybe in this really loving, supportive way that sometimes is all your brain needs. When you're lying there and thinking through all the possibilities, it's very interesting. I have done this when my brain's being pretty buzzy. Sometimes I do get up and I journal and I work it all through, but sometimes I'm just like, maybe you're right. Maybe I will forget. Maybe. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we're okay with that, because if it happens, it happens. And then my brain can let go of some of those worries. It's very fun. So that's my invitation to you, is sort of thinking. So I've used maybe on a couple levels. So one is like the maybe about what if the future isn't what I want it to be. And so when you're worried about it, soothing yourself with the maybe, I have found to be effective. The other thing is when you or others are sort of inviting to look at a situation that's happening now or happening in the past and view it with judgment. That's more what the original Zen thing was about, was like viewing a situation with judgment. Like, well, this was terrible. This has blown my chances. This is bad. Saying maybe, But PS, like when we do that, the only reason we're doing those sorts of judgments is because of what the implications think they are for the future. So it's actually the same thing. It's just looking at it at a different level, if you follow. It means though, like, so those are like the two ways of like the maybe. The other fun thing is like when we are like living in the reality of the maybe, which is the reality of life, we can stop striving to be any particular good thing where it's like, maybe. So it's like, oh, you say your brain's like, I have to make sure I never say the wrong thing to that person. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my chance at a promotion or whatever. But there's so many maybes tied up in that you can kind of let go of that whole project. I guess I am actually never in control of that person's opinions and thoughts about me. I could say the same thing on 2 different days. They could take it 2 different ways because of, how grumpy or not grumpy they are. If they heard me right, they heard me wrong. There's actually so many maybes involved with it. So maybe I can just let go of this whole project of pleasing that scary judgmental person, knowing it's actually just about them anyway. And I can just do what I want. It, like, when we don't have to be striving for certainties and control over things, we don't have certainties or for control and can just love on the maybe of it all, then we can just have a good time. Now we can just like live a life that we want to live, even. Imagine that. So that's the whole podcast. I did imagine this one would be shorter. It is only 22 minutes. You're welcome. You can have the rest of your commute or your walk to listen to some music or something. But yeah, I would really invite you to try on the maybe. So when you're feeling like, no matter what, like say it's like you're in the middle of problem solving, maybe you're really feeling sticky about a clinical decision. You're like, I don't know which one to do. See what happens if applying maybe to that situation. Ask yourself, how can maybe apply here? If you're like in a heated conflict with a colleague, how can maybe apply here? There's something that it can take the urgency out of things. It takes the black and white, definitive, judgmental nature out of things. And then you got yourself some curiosity. And curiosity is a yummy ingredient for any stew of a dilemma that you're working through. It truly is. So that's my invitation to you. What can you be saying maybe to this week? All right. I do hope you have an enjoyable week, embracing those maybes, and that it's full of lots of pleasure and human, sticky, yummy, messy moments. All right. I'll talk to you next time. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops, and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.